Okay everyone, get excited for some really cool stuff we're going to implement in this section. In this section we're going to implement how to log in a user and how our application can recognize that someone is logged in into their account, and so they can actually do some certain things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do if they weren't logged in. So there's so many applications on the web that use logging in. So Facebook, for example, Twitter, any of these popular websites or applications, for that matter, most web applications have a login, because whenever you post something on the internet, you want to be able to know who posted it, and by knowing who posted it, you at least need their email account. So for that purpose, you need to be able to create users and log them in. Okay, so we've already created our user in the previous section, but now we need to log them in. So in order to log them in, we first need to implement this login screen. Okay, so now it's not implemented, so let's go ahead and implement this feature. Okay, so I'm going to go to my router, open up a new request handler or a new route. So this is going to be /login, and I'm going to go to app.login login user. So this is app.login.login user. So we will need to create a login Python file, login, and the same as usual, from framework.request handler import yum search request handler class login user. Okay, and extends from the yum search request handler, and this is going to be handling a get request. Okay, good. So here we will need to render a template. So let's say simply self.render, and let's pass in a template that we have yet not created, but we will. So the template is going to be inside the templates folder, where we will create a new folder called login, and the file is going to be called login.html. We will not pass in any values into this file because, well, it's going to be a static file. So let's go ahead and now create the login folder, and also let's create the login HTML file. Okay, so if you remember, we need to extend this from our main template, so we can say extends main.html. And now we need to define a block. So block content, okay, end block. We always need to end the block, otherwise we will get an error. And we can also create the title block. So this is block title, and we can close the block, end block, and we can already put a title. So this can be log into yum search. Okay, so let's see if this is working. We can refresh, and it is working. We have our template and our title here. Okay, good. So let's start implementing the actual form. Okay, so I tend to open up first a container, so div class container in Bootstrap. And what this does is it makes the width, the content, not span from the very edge of the screens. Instead, it has a fixed width. So say it can start from somewhere here and go to somewhere here. Okay, so this makes the content just centered, a delimited width, instead of being able to span throughout all the entire width of the screen. So then we are going to add a row, so div class row. Okay, and now we can add another div with class of colLG8, let's say, so 8 columns wide, and we can offset these columns, colLG offset 2 by 2. So this will mean instead of starting at the very beginning, we can offset and start, say, 2 columns in. Okay, good. Now we will just add a h2 and say login. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Okay, and we see it's up there, so we actually need to fix something in our template, and we need to go back to main, and in the head, I will just define a very brief style. Okay, so the style will be, our body will have a predefined style of padding top 50 pixels. Okay, so I want to add 50 pixels to the top before any content start. So in this way, it will start below the navbar that's already occupying more or less 50 pixels. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, good. Now we see it's where it should be. So again, we went to the main.html. Inside of the head tag, we declare the style tag, so we can embed the style also into our HTMLs. And we said that the body element, so the entire body of the HTML, has a predefined style of padding top 50 pixels, which means leave 50 pixels from the top and then start to do whatever you or place the content. Okay, let's go back to our login screen. And after the row, let's add another row, because it's going to be in a new row, and here we can start declaring our form. Okay, so the form class will be form horizontal, and we need to provide an action, so this will be /login, and we need to provide a method, so it'll be post. Okay, sorry, I need to close that. Okay, so now we can actually go ahead and define our input. So if you remember, we first need to create a div of class form group. Okay, and now we can actually create the label. So this will be label for, let's say, email, because first we will have an input for the email, and then we will have an input for the password. So this will be for email, and the class is going to be col LG2. So the label is going to be 2 columns wide, and I'm going to also add a offset of 1. So col LG offset of 1 column. And the label always has or needs to have a class of control label. Okay, so that's it. And we can say email. And next we can say div class col LG4. So 4 columns wide. We want a input of type text, or sorry, type email, with a class form control, and the name is going to be email. So this will be the attribute that tells our Python script to fetch this input value by the name of email, and the placeholder will be email. Okay, so this looks good. Let's see how this looks. And we see here is our form with our input. So let's just copy all of this and paste it for the password. Okay, so now we need to change all the different values we need to change. So this will be for password, and the label is going to be password also. And the type is also going to be password, because it's no longer a text or email. We need to hide the characters, and the name will be password. And the placeholder can be choose password. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Great. Chrome is pre-filling these inputs for me, which I don't want anyway. So the last thing we need is a button. So a button to actually sign in. So let's say div class form group without the LG. So form group div class col offset 2, okay, and col LG10. So 10 columns wide. We're going to add a button of type submit. Okay, so this time this button is going to submit our form, and the class will be btn for button primary. Okay, so we want that blue button, and the text can be sign in. Okay, this looks good. Okay,